Hello, everyone. Welcome to the month of April, and welcome to the very start of Q2 2022. Very, very excited to be, bringing you this InvArch weekly, this weekly Wednesday. I've had a lot of really, really fulfilling the past week. Everything that's been going on the technical side, the progress being made with the community, the educational efforts that have been achieved, with laying out the groundwork for future partnerships. A lot of wheels are in motion, and the future is looking as bright as ever for the InvArch network. So, yeah, really, really excited to be here with everyone. Excited to bring you this weekly Wednesday. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Concluded the week last week by ending the InvArch Tinkernet. It ended during April 1st, not an April Fool's joke. It was amazing though. We ran it for 1 week, which to some may seem like a short amount of time. However, it will be back, and it will be back fairly soon. The reason for this was that there were just a few things that we needed to test out in order to move forward with further development responsibly, at least to prevent any possible headaches further down the road. Everything checked out great, flawless. It was good. Some slight little things happened, fixed everything up, good to go, and we saw some really amazing things get created during the testnet, which was awesome because the expectations were for people to go nuts, and honestly, the expectations were kind of exceeded there, just because again, during the testnets, having an individual realize a website, fully composable website that was made only purely out of IP files and IP sets. So it's really fascinating because that's the parallel. View that similarly to if someone were able to build websites out of nothing but NFTs. Right? Pretty substantial. Think about what NFTs, what non-fungible technology, how it's applied and how powerful it's been so far, but realizing just with that one test net through that 1 week, a glimpse of the new level of innovation, the new wave of possibilities that InvArch brings to the forefront. And you have again a fully composable IPF IP set based website built that way, structured that way, and it might seem cool just for the sake of it's possible. Here's why it's really, really powerful, something like that. Because now you can have, it's like we can have native kits, tools, functionality for DAOs to have decentrally owned websites that are composed and managed using a multi-sig functionality through their basis of being IP sets and IP files. So really, really interesting there. Really, just, and really, really cool. You have individuals the ability to display specified different IP files based off of individuals' different tokens, their holdings. So different experiences right off from the UI of a website based off of different tokens. Really, really cool, really powerful. But again, furthering the vision of fully, truly composable, non-fungible assets in the same way that files and folders operate on your desktop or files and folders work in GitHub. That same exact approach, as composable as composability gets, realizing that is what we've been working on and seeing it be achieved. It's very rewarding. It's very exciting, but it's still just the beginning. Providing the vessel for IP assets, for non-fungible assets, for one day smart contracts to be stored and fired off as smart IP, so tokenized, stored, authenticated. It's going to be a really, really amazing system once this is fully brought to the surface and apps are start to get built on top of the network, and we see really, really exciting applications that are very refreshing to not just Web3 but for the world, because what we will be seeing is something that happens ever so rarely in Web3, and it is when we introduce technology that mirrors some aspect of tech that we're already used to with Web 2. And what Web 3 does is it challenges and it takes that to the next level. So with NFTs, with this, it's very similar. Thinking of like Web 3's idea version of the file, and we see collections, and we see again these different folders storing all of these files. We see this in motion today, and we start to see again very, very powerful. We start to see the ability for imagine again a folder or a single collection to at one point own this NFT, that NFT, this, move them around interchangeably. And that's very powerful. Again, that's very similar to how files work with a folder, but the ability to fully composed things, collections inside of collections, sets inside sets with different admin rights, different specifications for access. Sometimes this architecture, this framework can be used to design entire games, DAOs, organizations. So it's really cool. But again, enough talking about all of that. It was a really awesome testing experience. Really excited, really pumped for the future, and bringing this out again with more functionality and for a longer duration, just to really see what goes down. So again, thank you to everyone who participated during that time. It was a short time, man. It was very fulfilling, very successful. So thank you to everyone for that, and looking forward to bringing TinkerNet back in the future. And again, we will some point during this month, later towards near the end of the month, we will go ahead and provide you with an update on when that will occur. Moving on, we followed up from the closing of the TinkerNet and went ahead and published the InvArch EduSeries 4. And in this, we introduced Seeponomics and kind of a new golden age for innovation. So Seeponomics, it was a fundamentally new concept introduced to not just to our community, but to the broader Polkadot and Web3 communities. And it's important that individuals understand the potential of this. The first 2/3 of the article are, well, the first third is mainly focused on introducing technologies that have already existed, already been conceptualized. For example, something that's very important to understand the premise of are refungible tokens, or RFTs. So a refungible token is, again, you have a non-fungible asset, and then the ownership of that is determined, instead of it being, this account owns this, instead it's this asset ID owns this. Multiple of that asset means that you're able to distribute in a fractional way the ownership. This once non-fungible asset is now, because of this, it's able to have fungible characteristics, which is why it's called a refungible token. Very powerful, very pretentious, and again, a lot of good use cases, and we touch on those during in the article, in the Edu series. Some of them, again, first and foremost, simple possibilities such as fractionalizing ownership, copyright ownership, or even the ability to fractionalize, let's say, legal agreements amongst parties. And while this is, again, very powerful, it's only one layer. And this is an example of where InvArch, the InvArch network, we take existing powerful concept technologies and we identify this is where things are today, and we understand the state of technology that is needed, that's required in order for the next wave, the next era of dApps and applications to come about, and go about bridging that gap. So with refungible tokens, again, realizing the power of having this, let me ask, how can we take this further? So if you have, in this instance, you have assets that represent ownership. So this is an IP set. This IP set could be a collection. This could be something as simple, again, as a simple collection, but this could also be an entire dApp. This could consist of different smart contracts. This could be a DAO structure. There's many different possibilities for this. Again, every single piece of technology that you've likely used ever in your life, or at least on your computer at that matter, is in some way, shape, or form structured very similar to this. It may not look flat like that. It's more of a kind of like a tree structure, but the same body, same possibilities. So with all those possibilities for tech, the ability to, again, fractionalize that ownership, and it's very powerful. However, again, taking that further to how this can be even better. So understanding, again, so an IP set, dApp can be an IP set, application, so on and so forth. And pegged to this, the world is used to, usually, there's a governance token. This governance token it's the currency too. So this is how we, like a DAO would fund projects. And so it's currency, it's voting. It gives everyone ownership, but to certain extents, because in a lot of cases, legal ownership over endeavors isn't actually recorded. So you have all of these. You have, and there's something new though, is access rights. So say on Discord, something that people are very familiar with. On Discord, you have different channels and you have different roles. In a business, an organization, on a team, there's different departments. and there are different individuals with different skills and specialties that make them more equipped to handle the objectives that exist within their department. The point being is that there is a reason to specify individuals and give them certain access in order to have certain capabilities and powers where others do not. The reason being is that, for whatever reason, whether they're skilled, vetted, or simply chosen, they're the one who has these rights where it makes more sense. Similar to where, let's say, if you had an R&D DAO that seeks to, you want to fund innovation. Boom, want to fund innovation. Well, if you want to do so properly, it's probably good if you're funding innovation to make sure that you are, investing in sound ideas, in good teams, in teams that are addressing concerning problems, problems that people can relate to, understand, problems that make sense. So with this, if you have a catch-all funding DAO, you're funding innovation in Web3 and the Polkadot ecosystem. Well, newsflash, Polkadot ecosystem is expansive, and there's a lot of amazing different technologies. With all of that, someone might say that they're a Web3 Web3 whiz, but nonetheless, the point is that technology gets specific, gets intricate, and odds are for one DAO, for one body to always make the best decisions, assessing all of these various different industries and topics and fields that not everyone necessarily has any direct involvement, experience, or even maybe prior knowledge of. To allow them to all blindly make those decisions, it muddles things up. It's a catch-all for the token utility, and it doesn't allow for organized decision making. Something that's very powerful, especially in DAOs, but it's missing. Multi-layer governance doesn't really exist in DAOs today. However, with a system like this, it's too easy, and that's the beauty of this. You're able to easily these fungible tokens can represent, again, whatever it is that you need them to be. So you can have fungible tokens that, if needed, can actually represent the legal copyright ownership over an endeavor, over something. You can have as many as you need. You could have one for yourself, 3 for you and 2 friends, 2 for you and 1 for the friend. Any of those things can be defined. Sometimes you may not always need a legal copyright ownership, and that's fine. There's instances where, again, omitted, not chosen, not minted, and in these cases, singular owner, but defined this way, and it wouldn't be bound to legal copyright, just simply be used to recognize who the owner of that is. So it's providing all of that freedom and that flexibility. But coming back to the DAO example, so you have a DAO. Let's imagine that you have access tokens, okay, or voting tokens, just general purpose voting tokens, which are for the general public. And this allows individuals to decide let's say, how they would like to allocate the funding budget. Okay, so for example, what percent of our funds do we want to allocate towards DAO technologies, towards non-fungible tech, towards decentralized identifiers? So deciding how they want their money, the funds, to be spent, something that makes good sense for everyone to have an active and clear voice in that. However, let's say if you're looking into funding a medical niche medical case chain, could be the most amazing chain with a lot of potential. However, for many people without relevant background, they may not fully understand the extremities, the significance, nor whether or not the proposal is sound. Because it is outside of their expertise. A developer could look at it and determine whether the tech is soundly made, but as far as the approach and what's being solved, they may or may not be well equipped to solve those. Whereas having individuals who are part of that DAO, who, let's say, they have medical background or some prior experience or relevance providing guidance in this field, you can have tier 2 or separate tier of tokens which allow them unique and separate voting rights in these matters. It's a lot simpler, and again, with having it this way to where they're fungible and not simply having non-fungible. So you have, let's say, 2 different NFTs that represent 2 different keys, so to speak. So this collection of NFTs represents keys to allow voting in this lower tier. This tier of NFTs allows access to vote in this other tier. That is one way to go about it. However, you're going to miss out on a lot of important things, such as, again, the ability to scale participation. Because when they're fungible, when they're non-fungible, it's a one-to-one, non-interchangeable. When they are fungible, again, it's something that they can accrue, can have its own value. It's fungible, so they earn, let's say, one of those tokens based off of successful contributions or involvement. So they have kind of validated their ability to provide sound advice. They're able to earn those tokens and earn their right to make more, let's say, more exclusive decisions. And again, here's the beauty of having them fungible versus not fungible is that now these tokens that you have, let's say you have the IP, that the layer one of fungible assets. Well, that second layer that provides different voting rights. Okay, these voting tokens can all share a value. That's the beautiful thing. There can be this one common denominator, underlying value, that provides value, per IPT one or IPT zero. So each IPT zero is worth, let's say, one Varch in this example. Now, if someone had, let's say, one IPT two, that could be the equivalent, let's say, of one IPT2 is always worth 50 of the IPT1s. Let's say that is the example there. So when an individual earns these tokens, it's a lot more, it's incentivized. It's more than just gaining the ability to have more votes. It's empowering them, encouraging them, and incentivizing them to not just make the right decisions or to contribute well to a project, but to remain active as well. So very, very powerful what can be done there. Having the ability, again, in tandem, that token could have a peg, kind of like a shadow or a casted value that's pegged to it. But in tandem with that, it can also have additional functionality to where, let's say, each one of those tokens gets an extra 0.1% increase in the would-be rewards that come from returns on successful contributions, successful investments into projects. So a DAO could have a mechanism, again, fund projects, people fund the DAO. DAO funds projects. Hopefully those investments go well. There's a return, which is then able to be divided amongst the token holders. However, people who are more involved, more active, more engaged, this again can make it so that they can have a slightly higher earning. It makes it, again, incentivized and arguably a bit more fair, a bit more structured, and the ability to have all of this freedom with governance. But yeah, could go on about this forever, actually. It's really powerful because at the end of it all, there's a whole world. Literally, there's probably lectures that could be given on just the different possibilities with all of this tech. But most importantly, and it might look like a simple graphic, right here, and this is a simple demonstration, a simple visual of SEPonomics, and it's you have your IPT zeros that represent actual ownership. You have IPT ones, which are used. They're backed, bonded by Varch, and as we proposed in our last Edu series, maybe one day even possible to be used to collateralize in order to mint AUSD. In this case, that would attach to have a stablecoin currency available for the project, not just for use, but also, well, for use in the ability to interact and conduct business more seamlessly with other projects throughout this new economy that can exist on top of InvArch. But here's why it's so amazing. And let's first, before I dive into it, because I'll try and be short here, not to, you guys had a long article on it all, and we'll talk about it more in the future, but two amazing things that are now possible. And I want to bring it to video games because, I love a good video game. Don't get to play them anymore. So with, you look back at World of Warcraft. Fun fact about it, I've never played it. However, that was the catalyst for Ethereum. There was a change in the game. Vitalik Buterin, not a big fan of the game. From what I understand, a lot of hard work gone. And he had at that point, a very simple idea of, well, what if the community made these decisions? And that was what eventually led down the road to Ethereum, smart contracts. However, the irony of that is the question that gave birth to smart contracts, to Ethereum, to Web3 development as it's known today. It's still not solved. It's not possible on Ethereum. You can't make a decentralized World of Warcraft on Ethereum. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you could. Sounds like rocket science, and it'd be really messy and ugly development. But otherwise, no, it's not really possible. Not easily. Why? It's missing some kind of really, really simple things. Day one of Ethereum, NFTs weren't a big thing, and obviously that's a core component, being able to have these assets. But what would really help is, again, do think, well, the ability for those assets to always remain unique, that'd be a cool thing. But more importantly, deeper than that, experience points. Experience points, and it's kind of funny because you can apply this to really just about anything. So in World of Warcraft, you have, there's your players, world, there's your items, you have your stats, your skills, your armor has stats, your armor has not no, your armor. You have experience. Sometimes your items and your weapons or your gear has their own experience points. Sometimes you have experience points, but you also have health points. Sometimes there's literally a whole bunch of things. You can craft up your skills, have their own unique aspect of experience points. It may not always show you like a Pokemon game, after you do every task, boom, plus experience. But every instance where something keeps a record of it advancing or making a step towards an increase in rank, that is a rule of experience being applied. And what Ethereum, again, yeah, that'd be messy. Yeah, so I wouldn't build it on Ethereum. What it's missing, what the world today is missing, is the ability to have these functions easily, seamlessly, decentralized, transparent, and trustless. And it's as simple as something like this. So in this, imagine the IPT2 tokens in this example, these SEPA tokens. Just imagine them as experience. Imagine the objectives at your job as the bad guys and you're the sword, and as you go and you knock down those objectives and you knock out those tasks, every time you get that hit, you knock down, that's increasing your multiplier. You can kind of view it when you obviously in a video game, this is typically like a damage multiplier. Now, no promises that getting SEPA tokens will then make you more effective at continuing on your job forward with more energy, but the beauty of it is that as you contribute and as you work towards knocking down your objectives, as that multiplier builds up, no, it might not be making you stronger, but it'll be making more money. Why? Because imagine a system where instead of hoping I get that raise, imagine you knew if you were getting that raise. Imagine if it was trustless, if you didn't have to wonder, if all you had to do was fulfill your end of the agreement, if all you had to do was contribute successfully, if all you had to do was just, again, contribute, be present, be active. If you do that and you're doing well, having the ability, so after each milestone or check mark or deliver or whatever instance is determined as successful work or contribution, every instance, the ability for that to produce a SEPA or SEPA tokens and have that allocated to an individual, those SEPA tokens can then act as bonus multipliers towards your salary, towards your earnings. You could get paid, let's say, 1,000 IPT1 tokens. Again, for the sake of familiar, let's say this is backed by AUSD. So someone could make 1,000 AUSD, the Akala USD stablecoin, make 1,000 a week. Now they're getting the multiplier up, so they're doing well. Get a SEPA token. The SEPA token, say, it represents a 0.05 percent increase in their boost, and they have gotten 10 of them. Or 20. They've gotten 20 of them. They are getting a 1% bonus. So let's say if they got so they got like one SEPA token or two SEPA tokens a week. So 1 to 2. So after anywhere from 10 to 20 weeks, this individual has in real time earned a 1% raise. They're already seeing it. It's as they earn those increments, they show up and they are present on the next currency allocation. They don't need to wonder, I mean, hey, if I bust my hump, am I going to get paid more one day? Because unfortunately, some people don't. And sometimes, understanding businesses, they can't afford to. But again, instances where they can't, you clearly stated, it's having the peace of mind of knowing what's in store, what's ahead, and having the opportunity to contribute and work in businesses and projects where if you contribute towards its success, not only are you able to have your immediate rewards, have them scale with your contributions, it gives you the ability to earn actual ownership over what it is that you're creating. So in this, you can take it a step further. So a baseline, very simple. I make a certain currency, do well, I get this multiplier, it increases the amount that I get every week. A decline in my performance could result in the initiation of a decrease of my total SEPA holdings, not my actual base rate, but it's just like when you fail to hit your mark in a game with a multiplier, you see your bonus multiplier, you see that start to tick down slowly as you fail to keep it going, and it's very, very similar to that process. You can have all of this, but what's really great is you can have systems where, so you have agreements, you have an individual, they make a set amount per week in IPT ones for X amount of contribution, so a certain rate of contribution or participation, they're able to earn these SEPA tokens, IPT2s, and they can have a mechanism in place. Again, keeping in mind there are these IPT zeros, so they represent actual ownership. Keeping in mind, not all future applications will be dApps, it's dApps, apps, and even just the ability for business structurings to take place and be stored and exist on InvArch. So you have all of this, and you have the ownership. You can have things in place to where, let's say, one of the things that is written, say, in a smart contract is that once an individual has achieved, let's say, 50 SEPA tokens, and on average, an individual gets one SEPA token a week, then in that case, once someone has achieved 50 SEPA tokens, then an IPT0 token representing ownership would then be minted and given to that individual, thus giving them a piece of the pie. It's a fair, transparent, trustless system. It's one where the only thing that the average individual needs to worry about is, am I doing a good job? Am I contributing? What individuals will not, or hopefully will not, need to worry about are things as ridiculous as, is my race, does my employer think about, is this a consideration with that promotion? Is my gender, is there a reason why I'm getting paid less than the guys over there? Based off your region, you have people who provide these same skills, same level of services, and you have individuals who, depending on where you live, you often get paid less than half of what the national average is for that role. Why? Because again, outsourcing, things like that. But when these systems are transparent, when it's not a matter of where you're located or what you look like, it's just a matter of what are you able to do and what have you done. It creates, again, this transparent and hopefully discrimination-proof system that, again, just helps to bridge the gap of fairness, economical equality to everyone who contributes. Okay? That's the beauty of it. If you don't contribute, this isn't something you can't benefit from sitting idly by. This isn't something that rewards and gives decentralized ownership to all. This is a system that keeps the core concepts of incentivization and insatiability of capitalism and blends that with the promises of more of fair, decentralized ownership systems. It does not provide that power to the states. It provides it to both hands. It gives it to businesses, to projects to define their rates, but it also leaves it to individuals for them to choose which opportunities they pursue. Better opportunities, better rates, you get better talent. If you're not providing good rates, then you'll start to feel it because you're going to be wondering where all the good employees at. And they're going to these projects and businesses where they're valued, they're getting real-time rate increases on their wages. They don't need to be concerned about a wage. And they have a clear path in some instances to, again, SEPA tokens could translate to promotions, to gaining ownership. It gives them peace of mind and the ability to prepare and anticipate the future in ways that's just simply not possible today. That's why it's a big deal. A lot of potential. You'd extend this again with this technology fully realized and the ability again to have this type of composability, which this is already realized, having the composability for assets to be stored, structured in this way. And then in the future, bringing in, which we will elaborate on again in a later InvArch Edu series, the ability for smart contracts to be stored as IP files, IP sets, and with that then being able to realize and build pretty much just about anything on the InvArch network. As complex as World of Warcraft, as detail and stat oriented and awesome as a Pokemon game. You can have something like this. You can easily, very easily, have a non-fungible asset or non-fungible assets that's different Pokemon that all have HP, they have experience points, levels, ranking systems, they have move pools, they have typings, they have stats, they have hidden stats, their moves have stats, their moves have power. It's really complex. It sounds, but they're actually things that we've all had since before the year 2000. just bring it to Web3. With that, then the excitement moves past realizing Web 2 capabilities on Web 3. It moves to focusing on the uniqueness of Web 3, the power that it brings, and the new world of possibilities of decentralized ownership, authenticated assets, what that brings to the table, and realizing, again, that new world of development. So, yeah, sorry. I talked about that a little bit longer than I thought, everyone, but really big topic. Really, really excited. Scalable, incentivized, proof of attendance protocols. Hear me out. Big deal. At least has the potential to be a really, really big deal. So very excited to see the future with that. And for those who haven't had the chance yet to see it, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to the one and only Golden Calf, Jay the Kusumarian. Really, he's a legend within the .samo ecosystem, and I have a lot of admiration for Jay. He was very, very kind to invite me onto his show, Space Monkeys, to talk about InvArch and explore the space of IP with him. And I just want to say, first and foremost, to Jay, thank you. Wonderful host. Been a big fan of his for a good while now, for several months. I love not just the thoroughness of detail that he brings on each project that he covers. He does his own research, but he does it in a way he really does bridge a huge gap to individuals. The information in the .samo ecosystem, it's fast, it's expansive, it's like the Big Bang. It's like energy moving at an exponential rate in all different directions, and it's amazing. But man, it literally is. It's almost like it's a full-time job to inform people about it. So I respect him very, very much, and very grateful for what he's done. Even more grateful to be a part of that. So if you haven't had the chance yet, make sure that you check him out. You can find Jay on Twitter. You can find him on YouTube as well. If you haven't already found him on YouTube, subscribe. It's awesome daily content. It's always about relevant projects, relevant information. I don't know how he stays up with everything all the time, but I love it, and I'm glad that he does. So yeah, if you haven't had the chance yet to see this episode of Space Monkeys with InvArch, make sure you do. Again, we dive in, really great conversations, expand a little bit more about the beginnings of InvArch, kind of what led down the rabbit hole to, for the project to grow into what it is today. Some of the past influences that have affected the project, the mindsets around its approach to development, and just breaking down a little bit of the power that's still to come. So again, very thankful to be hosted, and very, very grateful for anyone that goes and gives it a look. Again, I really enjoyed myself, and yeah, it's a lot of good information there. So yeah, appreciate it. And again, don't forget, even if you don't, Jay, amazing source of information. So if you care about Polkadot, Kusama, or anything relevant to this ecosystem, and you're not getting your news from him, you're probably not getting all the news. And last but not least, one thing very, very excited for. I don't know if you guys have picked it up yet, but I kind of like to talk. With that, I would be honored, and it would be so worthwhile to have the ability, the privilege, to share our presentation at Polkadot Decoded. It is XEM, the future of an authenticated internet. It's going to be diving into, for one, highlighting the beautiful possibilities that are only able to be realized because of Polkadot. Futures, development possibilities, technology that is only possible in this ecosystem, and the reality of what types of powerful new futures can exist because of Polkadot. Which is why, again, we're going to be diving into XEM, the future of an authenticated internet, highlighting on, again, the beautiful power of XEM, which is cross-consensus messaging, core tenant feature of Polkadot, and then diving into why InvArch takes that, and we bring new functionality, new tech that simply it's never ever existed, and it can't exist elsewhere, but it can exist here, and it will, and we're going to share how it's going to revolutionize everything. So would be really honored, would love to have the chance to share. We've made the short list. We're really excited. We're really nervous. We want to stay on it. So to everyone who has supported us, thank you so much. If you haven't, please do. Eternally grateful. If you have, and you have a family member or a friend who hasn't, good opportunity to introduce them to Web3, good opportunity to introduce them to a great project that they could then listen to. But otherwise, again, looking forward to everyone's support. Looking forward to the opportunity to talk more, to share Polkadot Decoded, to share to the broader Polkadot community. Would be a great honor, a privilege, and very important because, as many of you know, InvArch, again, it's anything but ordinary. A lot of really powerful tech, and so far, 100% to anyone who I have the opportunity to sit down and break it down to thoroughly. Excitement, validation, it's amazing, but the gap is the knowledge, and bridging that gap, introducing these new technologies, explaining not just what they do but how they work, and allowing developers in the world to better realize just how significant this is. That's what we're going to be aiming to do here. So the ability to do so, greatly appreciate it. Otherwise, I think we've shared a lot. This is a little lengthier than I anticipated. We'll leave you all to the rest of your days, and we will see you next week. Thank you.